Of course it is. We are now live. Perfect. Great. It's working. Thank you. All right. Oh, come on. But are not here, but we're going to get started so that we're on top of everybody else's time.
We've got a lot of coffee.
And yes, there is a lot of coffee to drink.
I know, so come on, grab a straw.
Just give me a box.
Push it.
What? Oh, we have to push it?
No. Laura?
Do we have to talk into the microphone for that live stream people to be able to hear us?
Will it pick up?
It'll pick up a little from up here, but
Oh, man.
push this button.
Nope.
It's already set.
It's already on. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So welcome everyone this is the second time that we've done this, a Coffee with Counselors event where we are having you come in the morning. We hope that having kind of different events at different times is helpful for you. Sometimes before work might be a little bit easier than coming at the end of a day, like a 3:00 something, or even in the evening, because we know you have so many activities. But we're happy to have you here. For any of you who I haven't met, my name is Paige Collins. I am one of the school counselors who works with students in grades 6 through 12. I work with all students who have last names A through F.
And I'm Carrie Ryan. I work with students whose last names start with G through M, so I'm also one of the counselors as well.
And I am Sage Fulgan. I have the end of the alphabet, so all students N through Z, with last names N through Z. So today we are kind of being guinea pigs today for the live feed, so hopefully that it's working. But we also like to keep it kind of informal too. So if you have questions, please just ask questions. We're going to go through the 9th grade and high school graduation requirements. Once homeroom ends and teachers get attendance in, the 9th grade teachers are going to come join us so they can talk about their classes and you can see their faces so you know who your children will have next year.
And we'll have, and anybody who is on the live feed, if you want to make a comment on the live feed, then we'll have someone let us know. Mrs. Perfetti is going to let us know what questions are coming through on the live feed as well.
How's the volume on the live feed?
So good.
So far, so
So
good.
good.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
great.
Just want to make sure.
All right, so the first sheet that you have, so this sheet that is in gray and red, so the color sheet, has information about graduation requirements. So a little bit different than middle school, where you will grade advance as long as you have passed the majority of your classes. In 9th grade and 10th grade and 11th grade and 12th grade, you need to pass certain classes in order to graduate from high school. So we've listed them in a less confusing way that if you look at the state regulations, there's a very confusing chart with lots of very small print that tells you basically the same information. So in order to graduate from high school, you need 22 credits. 22 credits plus, and it needs to be within certain areas. So you need to have 3 math credits. You need to have 3 science credits. You need 4 English credits. You need 4 social studies credits. You need a fine arts credit. So studio art, chorus, or band are the options that we have at Tamarack. We also, all students are required to have PE for all 4 years that they are in high school. So similar to middle school, you take PE, it's every other day. So students have either ACE PE or BDF PE. And then you also need a language requirement. So unless you're language exempt, some of our students who have IEPs will be language exempt, so they do not need that language credit. Others who have taken language and passed in both 7th and 8th grade will receive 1 language credit from middle school. Will count as a high school credit. It will count as Spanish 1, or for your students, is it Russian or is it French still?
It's still French. No,
Fre-
yes, they do have French. They still have French and they still have Russian.
Okay, so all
We're
three.
phasing through these. So there's been some changes in the language department, and we're still trying to keep track of what's phasing out and what's still there.
We were
so.
told one thing was phasing out, then the other thing got phased out. We were always going to have Spanish, but then French and Russian have been back and forth. So in any event, you take 1 credit of language in order to graduate. We will let you know that when we meet with all of the 8th graders and we do course selection, we'll be going into 8th grade classes at the beginning of March. We do require that students take either 2 of the arts credits. So if you're not going to take a level 2 language, we will ask that students take studio art and chorus or band, because you need to have 6.5 credits each year while you're in high school. So that is to allow for students to still have a study hall, still have a lunch, but they need to have 6.5 credits each year to be a fully enrolled student. So for students who decide to go on to level 2 language, which is the vast majority of students, they'll take the level 2 language and then take studio art, chorus, or band. Does anybody have any questions about that piece? I know it's a lot of information, and it is written here. So in the top left corner, it does tell you that's for the exams, but sorry, right below it. Left bottom.
So along with all these credits, so you need 22 credits in order to graduate. And each year we require students to take at least 6.5 credits. So in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, your student will be scheduled for at least 6.5. In your senior year, we do allow them to drop down to 5.5 credits. We just want to make sure they're on track so that they get enough credits. And a lot of students graduate with more than enough credits, which is nice. So along with the credits, there are exams that we need to pass. For a Regents diploma, you need 5 exams. So you need math, social studies, a science, and English. And that 5th exam can be 1 more math, it can be 1 more science, or it can be 1 more social studies. So that is the option for those 5 Regents exams. There's also an advanced Regents diploma, so that's 9 exams that you need to take. So that would be 2 extra math, 2 social studies, 2 science, so living environment and earth science, or living environment and chem, some of that, any variation of that. And then the foreign language benchmark would be after year 3. So it's not a Regents exam, but it's a benchmark exam that students would take after their level 3 Spanish or Russian class or French class.
So for that advanced Regents diploma, most of these classes are going to be things that automatically everyone is going to take. So for the most part, everyone is taking, everyone has to take global history 1 and 2. Everyone has to take US history. Everyone needs to take earth science, and everyone needs to take living environment and algebra. But the differences are going to be when you get to geometry and algebra 2. In order to get an advanced Regents diploma, you have to go through algebra 2 in math and pass the algebra 2 Regents exam and that benchmark exam for language. So those are going to be the 2, sort of caveats that are different from if you were doing a traditional Regents diploma.
That's something we'll go over each year when we review classes and credits with your student, to tell them which track they're on, to encourage them to, take the more challenging classes. And we'll just make sure that you're aware and they're aware of what diploma track they're on.
And we usually will email you too. So for a student who is deciding to opt out of language, like a level 3 language going into their sophomore year, we'll send an email home just asking, letting you know, your child has decided not to take this level 3 language that is going to make it so that they're not able to get an advanced Regents diploma. Some parents are totally fine with that, and we're okay with that too, as long as the parents are okay and the student is okay. We're mostly when we're meeting with students and talking to them about their classes, it's all about opportunities. So we never want an opportunity to not be available to a student because of a decision that they made maybe as a sophomore. So by not taking that additional language, by not taking chemistry, we don't want you to get to your senior year and all of a sudden decide you're going to apply to nursing school, but you decided not to take chem. So we want students to take the most challenging classes that they can take that are manageable for them. We're not going to push students to take classes that they're not, capable of taking, but we want them to take classes and actually challenge themselves so that they have a good transcript in front of them for whatever they decide that they want to do following graduation.
Any questions on that? It's a lot. It's a lot of information.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you have a student, say, that decides 9th, 10th grade to take Algebra 2 to try to get that advanced diploma, but they're bombing it, can they drop it and not have it count against them? Or will they just fail out, basically?
So, the math department is one thing that they will always give us recommendations. So they give recommendations based on what they think that students should do as far as the math sequence. And in our course selection guide, which is right online, it gives kind of a chart of the pathway that you can go with math. So typically we see students who, if they have been recommended for Algebra 2, they are able to be successful in completing Algebra 2. That doesn't mean that people don't have stumbling blocks. I think when you get to high school, there's more work and there's more, on students to be able to go and talk to their teachers about extra help. So the students that we have that ultimately are maybe failing a class like Algebra 2 are usually not going for the help that they need or doing the homework that they need to be doing at home that has been recommended, because maybe it's the first time that they're really being challenged. They've been able to kind of just go through and not do any homework and still get good grades, and then all of a sudden you hit one of these classes that it doesn't work that way anymore, and they feel like it's not them, that it's, it's the teacher. So I think that it's all about communication. So when something like that is happening, if you're concerned about a grade or they're concerned about a grade, talking to us and we can have a conversation with the student, with the teacher, and see what it is that they need to be doing to get back on track. We do allow for level changes in math if need be, but it needs to be something that's agreed upon also by the teacher, because they're the ones who are in the class with the student and know whether it is, yes, yep.
Anything online yet?
No questions online. We do have 6 viewers.
Mr. Sears.
Catalog, like, the one thing I find hard is find something on your website that has all this information, right? So parents, you might miss out on opportunities because you're not aware of it to bring up to your kid when they meet with you.
So we,
Or not just a question, but a suggestion, like, there should be a spot on the website that lists all the classes that kids are available. So like, even my son benefited from the AP classes that were taught by an adjunct and we paid for SUNY credit.
Yeah. Yep.
Those are things that would be nice just to be aware of, that they're there.
We do have the course selection guide. It's on the website. It's updated every year. And it was shared with all the students last week. An email went out to all the students. It's under the counseling center part of the website. So you just have to go in there and see that.
and that lists the APs, the other university and the high school
Yeah, so it's all
classes.
there.
That lists all opportunities then.
Yep.
Universities.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
The last page specifically lists out, so with each course that is described, there will be a little indicator at the top of the course that says whether you're able to get university and the high school credit. And then at the very end of the course selection guide, it's the page before the back cover, there is a page that lists out colleges, and then the courses that are dual credit are listed right underneath. So it'll say like UAlbany and then a course. It'll say Russell Sage, the language courses. It will say Hudson Valley, and then all of the courses that you could get dual credit in for those. And then you can also see the larger description of those courses when you're in the main portion of the guide.
We could definitely move it on the website so it's easier to access. I think it might be a little buried right now for people. So
Counselors.
counseling, you just go to the high school counseling center and it's in there. Yeah, but I mean, we could probably move it around on the website so it's easier to access, so you don't have to go. Yeah, oh, there it is. Yep, there it is.
And it's also going to be sent home, emailed home digitally to families leading up to course selection. That way, if you do want to go through it with your student and they have not brought it up to you, you can do that.
So we are going into the 8th grade classes. Mrs. Whalen has been generous to give up one of her days so that we can go in, and we will go over all the course requirements, the graduation requirements, and we will let them go through and pick their classes. English, math, science, social studies, pretty much are already chosen for them. They get to pick their elective. And then we'll keep a copy and we'll send a copy home for you so that you know what they chose. And if you have questions, you'll just ask us. But we do have most of our 9th grade team here in the back. If you guys want to come up, we have to use the mics so that everyone online can hear us too.
Should pick up without. Volume is at a good level.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks for coming.
Oh, sure. Thanks for having us. Is this gonna work over here?
Yeah, here's the mic. Here's another one. Oh, good.
We'll start.
Sure.
Good morning. I'm Tim Jakes. I teach 9th grade ELA. I'm also the team leader for 9th grade. We remain teamed into 9th grade. It's kind of a modified team. We meet every other day instead of every day. But it does give us an opportunity as sort of the core group of teachers to meet every other day, and just kind of keep tabs on kids and have conversations about what's happening in your class and are you seeing this with this student. We can invite parents in during that time, and when we do that, we offer either for the parents to come in person or to join virtually like we're doing today. That was one of those things that started during COVID. And while I hate virtual meetings, sometimes they can be way more convenient for parents that are working and want to have that meeting, but it's just a struggle to get in here to do it. So we offer both options, and sometimes we'll have like 2 parents and one's at work and the other one's sitting in the room with us, and so that's sort of the 9th grade team portion. In terms of ELA. We teach the classics, Romeo and Juliet. Actually, I'm just starting Romeo and Juliet with my 9th graders right now. We just finished up Mice and Men. We will read To Kill a Mockingbird. We read a bunch of really good short stories in 9th grade. The other grade level teachers are always jealous of the short stories that I get to teach that are in my textbook. And then our big focus really starting in 9th grade and then 10th grade and then in 11th grade up until January is getting kids ready for the state exam. It's a tough exam. What I always tell people, it's a reasonable exam to pass. It is a tough exam to get a high score on. The kids that are used to getting the 90 to 95 and above, that's a tough exam to score in that range on. So we, as a department, as an ELA department, we sort of have a plan where I know in 9th grade the skills that I'm supposed to work on, and then in 10th grade they continue to build on those skills, and then in 11th grade more honing and practicing, and then we do give the state exam in January in 11th grade. That allows the kids the option to retake it in June if they either don't pass or they get a score. Sometimes a kid they pass, but they get like an 80 and I'm used to getting 90s on these. I'm going to, study or try harder and take it again in June. But in the January administration, we have good results. Our results in the January administration, I think this year we had an 88% passing rate. And then those 12% will retake it in June, and they'll get the ones that didn't pass in January will get extra help and then retake the exam in June. They'll be put in AIS for the second half of the year to get extra help for June. Other than that, I'll let some of my colleagues speak. And yes?
In general, on Regents, are the final exam grades mandatory that they count against the kid's average?
So we will be, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, but we will be implementing a policy where Regents exams are not used as a final exam grade. That the teacher can have their own in-class final exam, and the Regents exam will not count as a final exam grade. You need it to pass, you need it to pass the class because you need to pass the exam or to get credit, I guess, with the state, but we're going to stop, I don't think many people used the Regents exam as a final exam grade, but going forward, no one will.
Okay. Hi, I'm Amy Bishop. I teach global history for the 9th graders. And as the counselors mentioned, like English, social studies, they take that all 4 years. So in Global 9, there is a Regents at the end of Global 10. It has changed a little bit. This is going to be our 4th year administering the new Regents exam. It used to be that it would measure content from both 9th and 10th grade. Now it is only measuring content from 10th grade, but I work on the skills in 9th and 10th grade. There's new things that that have evolved, things called enduring issues that I start immediately in 9th grade, and we work on, so I'm more or less working on the skills that they're gonna have necessary to be successful on that Regents exam. I'm gonna echo what Mr. Jakes just said about the Regents. It's very tough to score those really high grades. The other Regents was a little bit easier. We understood it more. The skills were definitely different that they were assessing. I think the first year we administered it, one person got in the 90s, and these are top students. It's just a different skill level. So we've kind of tweaked our curriculum a little bit. Currently, my students that I'm not in class with right now are writing an enduring issue essay, and those are skills that are just a little bit different, that they're pulling from knowledge that hasn't been taught to them. I have to teach them, like, hey, it's okay to use things that you know from the news. So I definitely see that as my part of my job. Is obviously I'm teaching 9th grade material, which I love. It's classical, it's ancient civilization. We get up to the Middle Ages, we do projects, but we really focus a lot on writing in the content area to get them prepared for that 10th grade Regents exam. Just to give you a real quick layout, we have Global 9, Global 10. In 11th grade, all students have to take U.S. history. We do offer an AP and university and high school credit for that. And then in 12th grade, they have to take participation in government and economics. And then we also offer a couple of electives, which are kind of cool. We have sociology, psychology, something called adulting, which is brand new this year, and history of the 20th century, which you can get credit from Hudson Valley. So there's a variety of opportunities. There's also in 9th and 10th grade, they have the opportunity to take something called, is it still on our seminar?
We dropped seminar. We just call it Honors 9, Honors 10. And I co-teach the Honors 9 with our library media specialist. It's a humanities class. I wouldn't call it an English class. It's a humanities class is the way we look at it. It's above and beyond the regular course load. So a student will take all their regular classes, and then they can opt to take the honors program. We typically look for an 85 or above GPA to get into the honors program. And then depending on the number of students that express interest, if it's a high number, then we do a more substantial vetting process to get the number down. Sometimes this year there were 18 kids that expressed interest, and we're like, we're going to take you all. We can do 18, and they all had above the 85 GPA. Some years we've had 40 kids that express interest, and then we do an essay and a vetting process to narrow the number down. We try to keep it 20 or below. And it shows up on your transcript as Honors 9, Honors 10. If you take both years in the Honors 10 class, you will get a college credit for a class called Library Skills for Research. It's through Hudson Valley. And the class meets every other day, so it's a half credit, meets every other day. And I will say many of the kids that take it are the kids that kind of want everything, and they have a really full schedule. And so many of the kids who take it, it's actually their lunch period. So they go get their lunch, they bring their lunch to class. Usually the first 10 minutes, we keep it light and they have a chance to eat. And then sometimes they eat during class, but for some kids, that's how they do it is they give up a lunch period or a study hall in order to take the honors class.
I'm just going to say one more thing before I pass it on to Danielle. So we also offer in 9th and 10th grade a class that's called topics in global. And so that is co-taught with a special education teacher. And so because we know that this is definitely different content, different skills, and students that struggle with reading and writing in English, then we're giving them ancient documents. It's even more challenging. So we kind of have tailored our curriculum to help meet the needs of those students so that they could be successful taking the Regents. So I just want to mention that. This is Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle French. I am the 9th grade biology teacher. There are actually 2 9th grade biology teachers. The other teacher couldn't be here. I don't think right now. Becky Tennyson's the other 9th grade teacher. We both teach for the Regents, for the Living Environment Regents. Next year, your students will be taking the new version of the Regents. But then, sorry, let me backtrack. So we will have most of your kids unless your kids are accelerated, and then they might be in earth science. I'm not sure what they did in middle school if they weren't at Tamarack. In Tamarack, 8th graders who are in the Regents class right now will have Mr. Stiles, and they'll take earth science in 9th grade. So I won't have every single 9th grader next year. It's kind of split between myself and Miss Tennyson. And the biology Regents is required. We do a lot of lab. They have lab period every other day, as well as class every single day. We have to get through 1,200 lab minutes, which is no problem as long as they are there for lab and doing their work. We save all their labs, so we have a portfolio at the end, and we have proof that they've done the labs. They need the labs to sit for the exam. We have a few state required labs that the kids have to finish and pass. And they're definitely a little more involved, but again, as long as they're in class and they're trying and they're doing the work, they'll be fine. They just have to do the work and finish it. And then what else? In living environment, I mean, it's biology. So you'll hear it called living environment. You'll hear it called biology. I think we're transitioning to being called biology, right? I don't know. I call it both. I don't know. I was biology when I was in high school, and so that was more natural to me. And I'm not from New York, so I never took a Regents, so I didn't have a living environment, a Regents or anything. So we're just focused on the life sciences, and we start, microscopic at cells and work our way up to ecosystems and natural selection, and it's all my favorite stuff. So I don't know. I love teaching bio. So my kids like my classroom because I have a bearded dragon and a ball python and some fish in there. So it's always a little fun for kids to come visit my room. Any questions?
I mean, it's possible because the state is changing things all the time. So it's
Right.
possible they're changing it to biology.
I mean, I know so this year's 8th graders are taking a new science test, the new version, and the same group of kids are going to take the new living environment Regents next year. So they get to be the guinea pigs as we move on in the new testing world. All right, your turn. Okay.
Hi, I'm Pam Scarup. I teach high school math. Currently, I teach all of the 9th graders except the 9th graders who are in accelerated math. So I teach sections of pre-algebra and algebra. Pre-algebra is just, we do the same topics as we do in algebra, but we take a little more time. It's for students who might need a little more support. So pre-algebra students do not take a Regents in 9th grade. They'll take it at the end of their 10th grade year. But this year we actually did something neat, and we offered the option for students who took pre-algebra last year and were halfway through algebra this year. They could attempt the Regents in January to see if, where they were. And some of them did pass it, so they don't have to take it again in June, but some of them want to try to raise their grade, which to me is amazing. And then the algebra class is a Regents class. They take the Regents at the end of the year. This year, we're currently implementing the next gen standard. So this year is the first year with that new exam, and it will follow them. So your students will have the second year of the new standards. After taking algebra, students move on either to pre-geometry or geometry, and then they go into Algebra 2 or Math 11, and then pre-calculus, and the accelerated students can go on to calculus. Algebra is a little more rigorous than their 8th grade. So some of them, when they first come in, are like, holy cow. But don't fear, I'm there to support them. I stay after multiple times a week and they can come in for help. And if we find that any student is struggling in algebra, we try to see if we can transition them down to pre-algebra to take it a little more slowly. It doesn't happen often, but it's always an option if your student struggles. I think that's about it. Any questions for math?
Take our leave.
My class is gonna be so disappointed that I'm coming back.
They're like, "You think
always
you go on
say.
the whole period?" I'm like, "Oh, no."
So along with those classes, every year, every student has to take PE, so that will be on their schedule every year. I don't know if we address that. Health is also a requirement, so that's either a 10th, 11th, or 12th grade year class.
They also need 3.5 elective credits to graduate as well. So we have technology classes, business classes, music classes, any extra math or science classes that they take in addition to the 3 credits they need are considered electives. If they take the 3 levels of language, if they take Spanish 2 and 3, those are considered electives as well. So they serve a dual purpose.
And the other thing just to mention too, so during sophomore year, if we have students who are interested in any of the trades, we have career tech options through the Rensselaer Education Center, which is now the Robert H. Gibson Center in Troy. So it's over sort of near Hudson Valley off of Campbell Avenue. But there are programs from construction to criminal justice to culinary, but lots of different programs for students to choose if that's something that they want to do during their junior and senior year. So we spend a lot of time with sophomores talking about that process. So we go into social studies classes, do a full presentation where they get to hear about all of the different programs. We then do a field trip to the Robert H. Gibson Center, where students can then hear from about 2 of the different programs specifically and like learn a little bit more about them. Then there is an application process. There are also parent open houses that are hosted there throughout the fall and spring. So lots of different opportunities to really learn about those programs. Students who decide to do those programs in their junior year will be at Tamarack for periods 1 through halfway through period of 6. So they'll still take classes here, a lot of their required classes, and then they will go to the Ed Center. Then in their senior year, it flip-flops. So seniors go to do their career tech program in the morning, and then they come back around period 6. So and then they take the additional required classes that they have here at Tamarack in the afternoon. In cases like that, when students decide to do that, students need to be on track with all their graduation requirements in order to do those programs, because you're out of the building for a substantial period of the day. So if you're out of the building for a long period of the day and you're not on track with graduation requirements, then we don't have the ability to get through all of those things that students need to graduate. And even when you do a program like that, you still need all of the requirements that are listed here. There are some embedded credits when you do those programs, so science, math, English throughout the 2-year time frame that you're in the program, but it doesn't substitute for things like English and social studies, in which you need to take here in this building. In addition to that, Questar also offers for students who are very, very curious about a particular career path, and usually students need to have at least a 90 GPA or better. They can apply for a New Visions program during their senior year. Those programs are highly career focused, but exploratory. So for example, there's a medical program where students are at Samaritan Hospital. They are getting some college credits when they're in that program, as well as being able to shadow a variety of medical careers. So in they actually are seeing surgeries. They are shadowing with physical therapists. They are with nurses, nurse practitioners. They're in labor and delivery. They do all of these like really amazing things to be able to kind of hone the area in which they want to actually study potentially in college. And I've had students who do that program who think they know exactly what area of medicine they want to go into. And after doing that program, they're like, nope, this is it. I know that this is what I'm passionate about. But so there are a variety of programs like that. There's an education program for students who want to pursue a career in education. So whether that be a teacher or school counselor, school psychologist, something like that. There's a program for students who want to do more the engineering focus. There's a public health program. There's an arts program, so fine arts, performing arts, and they're all based kind of throughout the capital region. So students are at SUNY Albany, are at over near on the Regeneron campus. They are at the Arts Center down in downtown Troy. All of them are associated with other colleges. The STEM program is at RPI. But with each of those, students are away for more of the day than they are with Career Tech, but then they still do come back in the building for a few elective credits at the end of the day. Any questions about those two programs? Yes.
So there's enough time built into their day that they, like if they were doing like the VOTEC or something, that they would go there in the morning and then they would have enough time built into their schedule that they're still getting 3 or 4 classes they need at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yes. And they can get their elective credits through the VOTEC program, and juniors can receive a math and science credit through the program, like Ms. Collins was saying.
We do still require students to take either math or science here at Tamarack. Like you still need to take a certain number of credits. So even though you are getting those embedded credits, we still really highly recommend taking an additional math or science here while students are juniors. Usually math, just because those skills are so important and they're only going to help in their Career Tech program as well as just in life. So we really do recommend it rather than only using that embedded math.
We have an online question. If a student is in AIS classes in 8th grade, will they roll over next year?
So they don't roll over, but we have recommendations. So we'll have recommendations from the 8th grade teachers about which students may need additional AIS support when they are in high school. A lot of times AIS classes in high school focus a little bit more on getting through the content that you need to get through the Regents exam. So I think that Mr. Jakes mentioned that students who didn't pass the ELA exam, we were attempting to get those students into our AIS ELA class for the second half of the year so that they would have some of that exam prep leading into the June exam. But students who have had that additional academic support, sometimes the recommendation is that they're in maybe the pre-algebra class if they've had AIS math throughout middle school. And then the teacher may also say, and they would also benefit from an AIS class. So when we know about those things ahead of time, it's a lot easier to schedule students into those extra supports. The high school schedule is different from the middle school schedule in that all of your middle schoolers in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they've had their core subject areas at specific times. So those teachers are all teaching core subject areas at the exact same time. So it's easier to make a schedule change and move some things around because there's always going to be another core subject area at that time. There are specific periods in the day that are scheduled for AIS classes, whereas in the high school, there are more moving parts. So because of all of the additional electives that we have, students in high school have lunch 5th, 6th, and 7th period. It's not based on grade like it is in middle school. So there are all these different moving parts. It's not always possible to schedule a student into a class. So there are conflicts, and that's okay. That's what life is about. It's sometimes making decisions. So we will have a conversation with the student about making that choice. Sometimes when an AIS class is recommended, it conflicts with this elective that the student wanted to take. And so we have to have a conversation about what other elective they may be able to choose instead of AIS, because we want them to take AIS. Sorry, that was a slip of the tongue. The student may want to take the elective instead, but we will, talk to them about the fact that they need that support in order to get through the class.
Any
Other
other
questions?
questions? So in addition to our athletics in high school, we do have some clubs here for high schools. There are a few in middle school, but we have different clubs in high school. There's book club, Clay Target Club, which I think they've been doing well. The Gay Straight Alliance Club, Key Club, Masterminds. We have National Junior Honor Society for 9th grade, National Honor Society for 10 through 12.
It's
Or is it?
they apply as juniors
Oh,
and then
sorry.
for their senior year. Okay.
Sorry about that. Olympics of the Visual Arts Club, Russian Club, SAD, which is Students Against Destructive Decisions, Ski Club, and it looks like they do some snowboarding as well now, Student Senate, Youth Activation, which they call YAC, Youth Activation Club, and Yearbook. So, if athletics aren't a student's thing, they have other options, or we have many students who do athletics as well as clubs.
We really try to encourage kids to get involved and try something new. YAC is an amazing club that puts our students are paired up with our developmentally delayed students, our challenged students, to play different sports. So, and our intern, this is Miss Leiden over here. She's an intern with us this semester. She's actually part of the YAC team, and she does bowling with them this season. They also have basketball, and they do the polar plunge in November, which I have no interest in because it's just too cold. But they are great supporters of raising money for organizations and just being together and really working together and showing that everyone can be involved in a sport, and it's a really fun organization. So anything that your student might be interested in, try something new. If they enjoy art and visual arts, and maybe OVA, the Olympics of the Visual Arts, is very similar to Odyssey of the Mind, except it's more art-based. So if your student was into that, possibly they want to get into OVA, and Ms. Lobsher and Ms. Sheffer really work together with the students on that. And sometimes there's new clubs. I know that the Adventure Club just started. I think there's a chess club. So if students are interested in something and can find an adult that wants to team up with them, they are more than welcome to start clubs. I know we're running out of time here. We don't want to keep everyone past 8:15, and that's when the bell rings. So we want to try to get it before all the announcements start going off. Does anyone have questions that we can help? Yeah.
With the main subject teachers.
Yeah.
Who is willing to stay after besides the one teacher that was here?
All of them. They're all willing to stay after.
Now, how long is that?
Usually, so students are encouraged to check with their teacher. So if they want to stay after on Thursday, maybe on Tuesday, they're like, what days are you staying after this week? And they plan ahead. Sometimes the day of can be challenging for some teachers, but they just have to ask. And teachers are usually very willing to stay after. And it just depends on how much help they need. And
Usually they have something in their classroom like at the beginning of the week. So they'll say, this is the day, I'm staying after on this day for test prep, or this is the day that I'm staying. So, every teacher is a little bit different. Often when I talk to a parent about a student struggling in a class, I check in with the teacher to see what days they typically stay. Usually it's on a specific schedule unless they have some sort of conflict, but and it's not always for a set amount of time. Sometimes it's, they're staying up to a certain, maybe it's until the late bus, but maybe it's also just a 20-minute recap of what they did in class that day.
there is a late bus at 3:15 that they can take home. Most teachers I've worked with seem to stay at least 2 days a week.
Question about the languages. Do they have the opportunity to change a language when they go into high school if they can meet the level requirements for the second year? I know they're encouraged to stay with the same one, but do they have that opportunity if they know that a language is maybe more in line with any career path or?
So we offer, it becomes a little bit tricky because the majority of our students are getting their level 1 language in middle school, we offer level 1 language every other year. And it's one language is offered every other year. So at this point, it could be Spanish, it could be Russian. So it would need to kind of align. We will be offering level 1 language next year. I'm not sure whether it will be Spanish or will be Russian, but that would be kind of the only, your 8th graders are in a good spot that if that's something that they did want to do and that level 1 language selection was different from what they've taken in middle school, they could do that. But in other years, the years that we're not offering a level 1 language, when students go into 9th grade, it becomes tricky because then they'd have to wait until they're a sophomore in order to take that first language. And then it also doesn't allow them to get through level 3 by the time they graduate. Any other questions?
So we'll be here, oh, sorry.
Online gradebook. Are all the teachers in high school going to input grades?
So everybody has a different method. So every teacher is going to have a different method of how they're inputting grades. So they certainly do for each of the interims and the quarters. They all put them into the same place so that you're able to view that information on the portal. But some teachers use Google Classroom to put grades in. Some do use eSchool, which is what connects with the parent portal. And then others have, paper copies of gradebook that they keep their grades in there to then calculate the averages. So if you have a question about a particular class that you really want to know how the student is doing, then the suggestion is reaching out to the teacher to talk to them about it directly, because everyone is not required to use the exact same system for putting their grades in. At least for each assignment, that is. Does that help?
Oh, yeah, I was just wondering if the school is going to require, just so you could go out to the parent portal and look and see the grades.
Yeah. I mean, that's a decision that would be, would be not something that would be made by the counseling center. It would have to be at like a district-wide, decision.
Sure. Yeah. The 9th grade team, since they do meet every other day, from 8:15 about to 9, they are open to parent-teacher conferences as well, if anybody wanted to come in and meet with them as a group.
Similar to middle school, just, and then starting in 10th grade, there are not full teams in the same way that they have been in middle school and then in 9th grade.
There's an online question.
We have an online question. If a student takes pre-algebra and passes the Regents, do they still need to take algebra?
Yes. So the students who took the algebra, when Ms. Scarup was talking about that today, it was the students who have already passed pre-algebra. They are now, and then they are currently enrolled in algebra, and they took the exam in January after taking basically a year and a half of math in high school. Even if they passed the algebra Regents exam in January, they still have to complete the algebra credit because algebra is one of the classes that is required to finish in New York State. Because of you needing those 3 math credits, you need to finish the class and pass the class.
Yeah, so the student would take pre-algebra in 9th grade, algebra in 10th grade, and they would get 2 math credits, but they would absolutely need to pass algebra.
Yep. Any last questions online? All right. Thank you all so much for coming.
I'm here if you have any questions.
Around if you have additional
Please
questions and
fill
want
up
to.
on coffee, fill up your mugs if you brought any.
Take some pastries.
Announcements are gonna start any second.
So you can walk in.
I like the picture. Actually,
Oh, nice.
I made one without the date so then we can use it for future ones if you want. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know why that microphone is like. There it is. I'll wait till everybody knows.
Thanks for volunteering.
Yeah.
Did you have any questions?
Yeah, do you have any questions?
Were those really your
No.
questions?
I don't know, maybe I wasn't listening.
Yes.
I always sit down.
Yes. I'll be in there.
So he was in.
Biology, right? Yes.
I mean, do you want it?
Is he in the outreach
And 4 years worth of information. So next year. I've been here a while. You would have had.
How is
Yeah.
Skylar doing?
Good, good. I'm Dave Sears. I went with back and forth with that something else.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
He's so good. He got a 3.9 his first semester. And you know, it's funny. He's pretty basic.
So, yeah.
Bring his laptop. Don't think guy, you know.
I don't know if there's any time for that.
Yeah, great right now.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I figured out how to use it.
But yeah,
For sixth grade, I was
It's
like,
still,
I just didn't realize that.
be your parents.
Fully, I know I didn't realize.
It's frustrating for us too, because my seventh grade.
Yeah, and we can't see it either, and so we're often
And he's largely doing it.
surprised when we see it in
And we only
journal.
know when she says she has a big class. But the actual assignments, you know,
So I mean, sometimes, like for the teachers who are still using Google Classroom, assignments you can go in and like have the parent access to see. I know that there are faults with that too, because
Yeah.
students are he's been like knows what actually did.
no, I know, we're not, I have these questions, it's more class. But the university and college actually really does. More people know about that, 'cause that's, I was about 48 credits.
Well, and we talk to them, you know, we talk to them regularly, and like even when we do the course selection, you'll see it's like the course selection is, well, you would have seen it with Tyler, like with the sheet that comes home, all of the classes that are used at the University of High School with credit are marked there too, so they can see as they're choosing, and we're talking to them about it, like if you do this class, you can also get college credit.
And it's important, they transfer at 48 credits, you can be done in 3 years. But his is different than PCAT, which is available. It's good to know there is a spot on the website so we can find.
Mr. Rizzo's, Mr. Rizzo's newsletters have had it the past 2 weeks, they'll have it again tomorrow to just. If I need to add it to like the features, it's like, I feel like you go over the handbook and then.
Yeah. You can say course selection and parents will say university, you can take that. Because the kid might not come home and tell you about it, because we're gonna listen to you speak to us. I just remember when
We
Todd.
work together. I know this is how you structure a sentence, you know, and
You have a chance to take the advanced
writing is just.
And if we didn't know about the advanced math and science from Tyler, we would have never known about it.
But I think it's reading.
Miss Rita getting more into this because she didn't get nominated, but she had 100 high grades, all math, every test the whole year. She didn't get advanced math. And there was like a selection because she didn't do good enough on this exam. But the class she had was very disruptive. The teachers couldn't get to all the parts. But if we didn't know about it, we would never require why she's not. Now she would be challenged to great words.
Because we studied,
He
he
helped
studied
us.
harder than my daughter does. She's in fourth grade. And any of that, I'm talking your heart, but like, I'll be like.
All right, I appreciate it. Yeah, nice to
I know
meet you.
more than
Have a great day.
Which is good. Yeah.
I like that he loves it so much because it's a positive thing about school. It's not all just.
Joined virtually, but like. Could you see it? Oh, you can't see.
Yeah, it's like the highest
It's just
online
a-
number is 9, and then it dropped to 7 and then 5.
Oh, yeah.
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 Like you commented, and then, grade, grade.
Largely, but I wanted to be able to say to him, this is why you're there. You know, so. And then, like, he's just being his Spanish, he's come into a little bit of,
You got people from.
trouble in November.
Ben, was it Ben? I thought they would read that, so I threw this out.
I took away.
I know, and I'm like, we don't